XRP Community Day goes live in 30 minutes. A brand new blockchain went live yesterday, and as a result, its native token has already shot up 40%. We have tons and tons of news that's come out over the last 24 hours, and the Big Daddy himself finally gave us a hint about ledger activity. We are going to cover everything. I got 30 minutes till Community Day goes live. So keep the chat rolling. We are going to keep the chat engaged. It's going to be a long one. Grab a couple cups of coffee, grab a snack, whatever you need to do, because Community Day does not end till 3:30. So I'm going to be here for at least 3.5 hours. I hope you guys have the opportunity to stay. Hopefully I make it entertaining for you all. And we do have a ton of information to get into. But first, Scott, what about price? We are still falling down to 66,000. But why are we still falling? We got good jobs data. Unemployment down. Jobs beat expectations by an extreme amount. So why is it still falling? It does not change the fact that we still have the risk off rotation elements going on, but we also have geopolitical issues still going on with China, right? A de-risking or decoupling, not decoupling, but a de-risking from China. This is strengthening the dollar, which is a rotation out of risk assets into gold, silver, and more stable commodities, which is what we're seeing now. So how low is Bitcoin going to go? I've been saying 55K. Well, I have some new data. And we always take the data. So I am adjusting my prediction. I'm adjusting my level. I think we're still going to see 60K for Bitcoin. What does that mean for XRP? Well, when we're looking at XRP, and again, quick distinction for everyone, I have to do it at least once. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. You should do your own research. You can lose everything in crypto, as most people know by now, because everyone's lost money. But do your own research. This is just what I'm looking at and what I'm doing in my own personal life. So when we look at XRP now, it's pulled back to $1.36. When we were looking at Bitcoin, it was at 66,000. Last time Bitcoin dropped to 59,000, we had XRP pull all the way back to $1.11. I think if/when Bitcoin gets to 60,000 again, we're probably going to see like $1.20 for XRP, $1.20-ish, just because of how well it's held up. Now, why is it holding up better? I think we are truly starting to see some breakaway in utility tokens versus speculation. Why do I say that? What proof do I have of saying that? And again, I could be wrong, but we need to look at the whole picture. So we talked about Zero. As I said, it's had a massive run since the announcement yesterday. Full disclosure, I did put a short out for you guys shortly after I found out about it. And I did throw a dart throw at it as soon as I saw the backing behind it. We are going to cover the information. It was a good dart throw for me. It has run up about 25% since I was able to get into it last night. Now, that being said, you're probably asking, what is LayerZero? What is LayerZero? What is Zero? What is this? Okay, so let's go to X and go to my bookmarks. I tweeted out a bunch of stuff. If you guys follow me on X, it's at Longview Crypto. You probably saw me tweeting a bunch of stuff about LayerZero. So we're going to come. I got stuff on CC. We got stuff from Scott Bessent. I got a bunch of stuff. So let me find it. Here it is. Citadel, DTCC, and ICE back LayerZero's Zero blockchain in an institutional on-chain push. Citadel Securities, DTCC, and Intercontinental Exchange have partnered with LayerZero to back Zero, a new permissionless blockchain targeting institutional trading, clearing, and tokenization. But wait, there's more. We're excited to partner with LayerZero, says ARK Invest, ahead of the Zero launch. Disruptive platforms evolve, and as more assets move on-chain, scalable, interoperable infrastructure becomes essential. We believe Zero has the potential to emerge as a leading smart contract platform in the next era of on-chain finance. So Kathy Wood from ARK Invest Michael Blogrund, the VP of Strategic Initiatives from the Intercontinental Exchange, and Caroline Butler, former head of digital assets, BNY Mellon, and former co-chair of the CFTC Digital Assets Subcommittee. These are massive partners, massive advisors for a blockchain that literally just went live. So that is why I threw a dart throw at it. For me personally, I always say, follow the money. Money tells you where to go. And when something comes out with this much backing, yeah, I threw a dart at it. I'll be honest. Just based off of the adoption, the backing, all of that information. So we have more. I got so much news. I'm going to try and go through it as fast as I can. Keep the chat rolling. I appreciate all of you guys. And we are going to cover everything. So this is about a minute and a half. I think it's important when we're talking about, we got good jobs data today. I already covered that. So why is price going down? Stock market should be recovering. Well, Scott Bessent also said this not too long ago. What did he have to say?
The U.S.-China relationship now is in a very comfortable place. We are going to be rivals, but we want the rivalry to be fair. We do not want to decouple from China, but we do need to de-risk. When I talked about at the beginning, when I talked about our two G20 initiatives, the first is growth, but then the second is retaking sovereignty in strategic industries, whether it's critical.
Real quickly, you might be asking yourself, what the heck does this mean? This sounds like a big deal, but I don't know what it means. We've heard of decoupling from Bitcoin. We've heard of de-risking out of assets, but what does this mean when we're talking about a country? So we're talking about de-risking from China, not being so dependent on China. China's number one thing is manufacturing. They hold the largest trade surplus in the world. China is getting too much economic power, and the world doesn't like it. This is an economic trade war with China. So when we are de-risking, that means more strength for the US dollar. People de-leverage, people de-risk, dollar goes up. There's a flood to safe haven assets, gold, silver, copper, right? These things we've been talking about. All of this has been happening while the price has been going down because this issue with China has been happening geopolitically behind the scenes. This is not something that's talked about in crypto. But if you, excuse me, let me get over here. If you think that crypto moves right now on anything other than speculation and the stock market is not what's controlling things, you're looking at the wrong things. That's why we follow utility on chain. That's why we follow what projects actually have money and institutional backing, because it's about the long view, right? What's going to happen a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? The utility takes time. But right now, the rest of the world and the rest of the economy is following what's happening globally. Okay, so that's why we have to pay attention to this kind of stuff. That's why it's important. So when you see people telling you that crypto's down because, you know, the Clarity Act didn't go through, or the ETFs aren't doing anything, or, you know, whatever the case may be, everything is following the geopolitical market. It's a risk-off rotation due to what's happening with commodities, due to what's happening with the trade wars, okay? This is why we look for the long view and position ourselves ahead of time. Let's finish this video real quick.
Critical minerals, whether it's semiconductors, medicines, the U.S., as we saw during COVID, very dependent on China for medical supplies. So I think we can have a very productive relationship, but we're always going to be competitors. And I'm of the view that competition makes you better, keeps you from stagnating. And you know, I'm convinced that the U.S. is winning the AI race. We have the technological lead. But in the long run, China must rebalance. I think we're probably going to see the IMF, the Article 4 announcement come out, and we will also see, I think at the G7, global rebalancing will be a topic. But the world cannot have a situation where China persistently runs a $1 trillion trade surplus. That's just not possible. The U.S.-China
So
relationship.
there you go. There you have it. So they don't like the way it's going with China. China's getting too much economic power. And the world is going to talk about basically reorganizing things on who gets what from who, what manufacturing takes place where, prices are going to be adjusted. This is stuff that takes place over, several years. This is why we're seeing what's happening in the stock market. De-risking, deleveraging. It's a global macroeconomic event. Okay. Now, so that's just important to note when we're looking at what's actually going on behind these projects. So I believe we are closer to the bottom now. And a lot of people, and you're like, so hang on. This is important because when we're talking about, and I'm talking a lot about the economy, but when we're talking about, the GDP's looking good, jobs numbers are looking good, inflation data is going down, unemployment's going down. Why is the stock market going down? Well, now you know why. Because it's a change in the philosophy of the global economy. So utility and infrastructure are what's going to progress from here. Now, so when it comes to our crypto investments, my crypto investments, that's why I'm focused on infrastructure, because it's going to be about what's building out. Less speculative assets are going to go away. And it looks like the bulk of institutional investing in the speculative assets is going into AI. And retail is completely wiped out of crypto. Now, we have a ton more news, but first, before I get into it, I constantly talk about account set activity. It spiked yesterday clear up to 68,000, the highest it's ever been by far. And we've been tracking this. We are the only channel that tracks this. And we're starting to see it translate into payments activity. We had a spike up to 2.2 million, and it's fallen down now to 862,000, but it's still early in the day. That being said, I have been reaching out to Ripple or people at Ripple every single week, trying to get a response on what this account set activity could mean. Well, I didn't get a response, but I finally at least got some acknowledgement from the man himself. There he is. That is his real handle. He liked it within 2 minutes of me asking the question. He would not respond to the question, but he did like it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think that means something, especially from a small channel such as myself that doesn't really get a lot of pull for those kinds of things. It's not like it's going to help him get anything. So he does like the account set activity. Now, more information. We still have about 15 minutes before I have to switch into what's actually happening with the community today. This was talking about stocks, talking about the jobs numbers. You can look at the exact numbers here. The U.S. added 130,000 jobs, shifting expectations for potential interest rate cuts. The unemployment rate ticked down to 4.3%. Better odds of interest rate cuts because jobs look better. Investor attention coming into Wednesday was focused on the Super Bowl of jobs reports, the delayed January report, blah, blah, blah. So surveyed by Bloomberg had projected a gain of 68,000 jobs in January. Statistical release at 8:30 a.m. was expected to hold at 4.4. And the White House officials downplayed the importance, which we talked about yesterday. The surprise is that we came in like 130. There it goes. Which brought the year's payroll growth to 184,000 down. So payroll went down while jobs went up. So they brought in 68,000 more jobs, but decreased payroll. So jobs data, good. Jobs data beat. And then so that's good news for interest rates. And we also have to worry about inflation data later on this week on Friday. But when I really sit here and think about inflation, when I go to the grocery store, prices are down, with the exception of beef and chicken. Prices are down from where they were a year ago. When I go to the gas pump, prices are down. When I go out to eat, prices are the same, but that has to deal with labor. So, it does feel like inflation has come down. We have deflated a little bit with the exception of a couple areas. So as I'm thinking about inflation, I think we beat it. Just looking at the world from my perspective, that makes sense to me. I could be very wrong, The yen, right? Again, as we're seeing this pullback, the dollar is weakening in comparison to the yen. It's down to $1.53 right now. Every single Bitcoin pullback has this translation. Every single time. We've seen it here on the channel every single time. ZRO price jumps nearly 22%, now 40% as the broader crypto market slides. Here's what's driving it. We know what's driving it. It was just announced with all of that backing, but I am about institutional plays. I'm about utility plays. I'm about infrastructure plays. That's why I believe in Canton Network. That's why I believe in XRP. That's honestly why I threw a dart at zero. For no other reason other than the institutional backing and what it's trying to do. And obviously, a lot of people agree because a lot of people are buying it. White House stablecoin talks stall as banks push for yield restrictions. Nothing came from the meeting yesterday. We still have to wait on the Senate Bank Committee to meet on this again. I believe they're meeting on it in a week or two. That's the next step. But until then, it's a big nothing burger. Still waiting on the Senate Bank Committee. Will they get it pushed through? I hope so, but probably not. Then once they get it done, then it has to go to one package to the Senate floor. They have to push it through, and then the revisions have to be approved by the House. House sends it to the president. So we still have a little ways to go on the market structure bill. Be careful what you hear out there. Robinhood Q4 earnings top estimates, but crypto revenue decline weighs on the stock. Why do I bring this up? I brought it up for this one line right here, because otherwise I don't care about Robinhood. Cryptocurrency revenue declined 38%. This is starting to become a trend. Gemini is starting to pull out of markets. Robinhood's seeing decreases in crypto trading. A lot of retail has moved on from crypto and into prediction markets. There's not a lot of retail left in crypto. It's mainly institutional and then like the 1%ers like you and me. The people who are here that actually care about this stuff, we're probably now the 1%ers of the population in regards to crypto because retail is completely wiped out of it now. Everything you're seeing in the markets as far as price or any kind of price action is basically purely institutional or leveraged at this point because retail is completely out of it. It's clear as day just by not only what's happening on Robinhood, you can see other areas pulling out of crypto trading, but I can see it on my channel. I can see it on the rest of YouTube as far as what content is being consumed. People are caring less and less. The sentiment is down. And until sentiment returns, we're not going to really see a good price appreciation. So what is going to cause sentiment to return? Well, we're going to need to see some price appreciation. So it's really going to come down to utility and institutions. So if this screen would ever load, I don't know what the deal is here. Hopefully I'm not having problems with my stream. My internet's been acting a little goofy lately, but I do have a lot of things pulled up here. Okay, let's try this one here. Ripple partners with Aviva investors to tokenize funds on the XRP ledger. Ripple, has tokenized on the XRP ledger, marking Ripple's first collaboration with a European investment management business. The firm said Aviva investors intends to issue and manage tokenized funds using the XRPL, a public blockchain designed for financial transactions. Yes, we know what the XRPL is, but we do have tokenized funds coming to the XRPL. I don't know why. Oh, that's loading now. We found out that Goldman Sachs had to disclose a significant amount of crypto exposure, including 1.1 billion in Bitcoin ETFs, 1 billion in Ethereum ETFs, 153 million in XRP ETFs, and 108 million in Solana ETFs. So what kind of ETFs? We don't know. Were they spot? Were they leveraged? Were they not? Were they futures? I don't know. No one knows, but well, I'm sure someone knows. But they were ETF based, but they do have exposure, right? Big banks are gaining exposure. And honestly, most traditional institutions are going to gain exposure through ETF wrappers. They're not going to do it through holding the actual asset. It just doesn't make sense to most banks to do that because they know nothing about it. And we already covered Aviva. Perfect. I got 10 minutes to work on the chat for a little bit. Actually, before I get into the chat, let's cover some of this stuff from Canton and the bookmarks. So what is this? Oh, this was interesting from Mike Novogratz. Crypto speculative era may be ending. CEO Mike Novogratz says that the age where people buy crypto for huge, quick gains is ending. He says risk-averse investors are replacing hype traders. It's going to be real-world assets with much lower returns. I don't think it's going to be quite like that. I do think we still have a boom of some level of appreciation. Is it going to be $100, $1,000, $10,000 like some people were advertising? No. Is there only going to be one ring to rule them all? No. I know a lot of people were sold those narratives at crypto because, and let's face it, it's because Bitcoin had such an amazing return and everyone wanted the next Bitcoin. And that dream, that story was packaged and delivered in so many different ways with XRP, with Ethereum, with this token or that token, on how it was going to have a massive price appreciation and you were going to be the next Bitcoin millionaire. We may never see something like that again in our lifetime. I mean, we may not. That may be a ride that has gone forever, but that doesn't mean we can't get a 10x, a 20x, a 30x on our investment as we're building over the long view, right? It's most people in this world do not get rich quick, okay? Most people get wrecked quick. You got to get rich slow. Ask Warren Buffett, right? Or you can be like Donald Trump, right? And, have your kids open crypto firms while you're promoting pro crypto stuff. Yuval Ruse, this is the CEO of digital asset company behind Canton Network. People say stablecoins have PMF, but when you dig in, you find that it's still primarily used for crypto use cases. Once you unlock a privacy on chain, you're going to see more and more traditional business move on chain. This is exciting. And congrats to Cantor 8 for the first transaction of CC on Canton Network. So again, that was on February 10th. It is ramping up for the Canton Network. I do love this play. It already has major backing mixed in with it. This came out straight from the Canton Network.
Let's imagine there's a black
box. What do they have to say?
And you pledge collateral into that black box. And the black box is called FTX. And FTX just keeps on telling you the collateral is there. And one day, bad things happen, and now you need to call on the collateral. And then you find out that there was a bug in the zero-knowledge algorithm, and the collateral was never there. This is not science fiction.
Joining us today is Yuval Ruse, co-founder and CEO of Digital Asset, the company behind Canton Network, a privacy-enabled blockchain built for regulated finance and real-world assets.
Was there a moment in your journey where you understood that this technology is going to engulf the financial system?
The fact that we were able to get the domain digitalasset.com was because we already back then felt that any asset in the world will become a digital asset that would live on chain.
Maybe we can talk about digital assets, what it is and what its connection to Canton is.
We are building a commercial company that builds products and services on Canton Network.
For people that perhaps haven't heard of Canton Network, how would you explain it to them in kind of layman's terms?
Imagine if L2s did not bifurcate Ethereum, but you could actually compose transactions across all the L2s and Ethereum as if it was one network.
How does Canton tackle privacy?
For us, privacy is the ability to share information on a need-to-know basis. The idea is that it's the smart contract, not the chain, that defines what is the privacy.
And I think when Paul Atkins comes out and says crypto has the potential to become the greatest financial surveillance tool in the world, any comments?
My only comment is it doesn't have the potential to become. It is already.
It is already. That is what we have to be concerned about in regards to privacy when we're talking about all these things, but we can see what direction things are going. Lots of information and lots of hype. Be careful of hype. Lots of information, but also lots of hype coming out around the infrastructure and utility plays. But again, we're here for the long view. We got 6 minutes until it goes live for us. So let's do a quick run on the chat here before we get into the actual XRP Community Day. We got 6 minutes till it goes live. Thank you everyone for taking your time to be here with me today. And let's see here. Sir Charles first in the house with a couple cups of coffee saying, hello, Longview. Good morning to you, Raul, and good morning to you, or good afternoon now, Sir Charles. Oh, I moved my camera around, and it's actually right behind where the names are. That's really unfortunate. Hello, old resident B Quelly in the house saying not staying all day today like the Ondo. So please give us a good summary tomorrow and or Friday. I will do my best. What happened, Alcoholic Click? Hello. Quelly says, and congrats on your X post getting big recognition. I appreciate that. It's always nice when David Schwartz gives you a like. Hopefully that means something, really. Does it mean, hopefully it means XRP go up is what I hope. Race fan, good afternoon. Few laps down. I'll see if I can come around. All right, race fan. Becoming more and more aligned with Raoul Powell thesis of a 5.4 year cycle based on refinancing of debt. I mean, he also kind of follows a similar debasement thesis. So yeah, I mean, debt is kind of the main thing there. People are tired of getting their teeth kicked in and don't have the stomach for the volatility, says Stephen Haynes. That's absolutely true. I mean, it's been a lot of volatility, especially when so many people came in during the hype era in like June, July, when people were at their peak of their theories and their theses, and things just only went down from there. And we looked at how that's actually played out and what's been going on geopolitically with China, with the government trade wars, with inflation, with jobs data, like that's all those things actually matter. They really do. They matter more than the news right now. So when we get all this positive news and these things and these partnerships and everyone saying price isn't going down, or price isn't going up, because price was going down, it's because crypto's not in charge. It's still considered a speculative asset. We need clarity. We need real utility to come on chain. That's why we follow the real utility and the real infrastructure plays, because everything's moving as speculation right now. And when you start seeing global geopolitical things take place and you see a rotation out of risk assets, then you can see what's actually happening with the currency. Everyone ran to gold and silver, right? They go to the safe play. Caterpillar, right? Equipment is skyrocketing up 30% this year. Boring stuff. Unfortunately, when you get into risk off, that's what wins. That's why the crypto I'm invested in is the boring crypto, right? The old man crypto, XRP, CC. Not financial advice. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Pick up some more XRP and Canton it is. I love my Canton Network. All right, let's see where we are here. Let me pull up. We got to be getting close now for Community Day. I've already got it pulled up here and ready to go, or I did. I got Ripple pulled up, ready to go. Let me refresh Ripple because it said it started at 12:30. I set a reminder. It's currently playing the EMEA, which we're not going to listen to. Community Day Americas. Oh, here it is. Start. Oh, they just listened 1 minute ago. So here we go. There's not a video. It's just a listen. So you guys have to look at me. Oh no. Start listening. So we're starting in 2 minutes. We get some cool background music. And keep it going in the chat. I can pull up the chat while we're doing this. I should hopefully be able to keep the audio going when I have a chart up. They killed the volume. Oh, I can request to speak in this Community Day. Oh, it'd be cool if I get to ask a question about accounts and activity. I'm going to try. If I get an opportunity, I will try. I'll give you that. It's all quiet. Where's the audio, yo? I am listening. Let me leave and join again. Was it because I clicked off of it? That sucks if I can't pull up the chart. We can listen to some cool elevator music for a while, though, till it starts here in a minute. I hope I do get a chance to ask a question, though. That'd be pretty dope. I wonder how many people are going to listen to this. I wonder if it shows. Well, I could do this. I could pull this up over here and do it this way. Yes, that works. They cut the volume again. Or is it because I click something else? Is it seriously going to do that every time I click something else? That's highly annoying. Let's see. Regarding the Stapletons giving yield, I feel like that is a distraction so they don't discuss more important things. That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you mean in regarding the stable coins giving yield? I mean, it's a sticking point because the banks don't want to give up that power, truthfully. So they do the music for a little bit and then they just goes away and goes silent, and we sit here silent while we wait for this to start, I guess. I wish they had something going on. DJ Scott, I know, right? Trying to get this community day thing started. It's supposed to start a minute ago. We're in. It says we're joined.
Hello.
Here we go.
Can I get a reaction to see if you can hear me, please?
Yes,
I can hear you, David.
Oh, good.
That's perfect. Hi, everyone. Happy XRP Community Day. Welcome. So welcome, everyone.
Here
welcome to this very special community session. I'm David Pshiri. I'm the president of XRPL Commons, calling in from Paris. And joining me today is Fabio Marzella, co-founder and manager of the XAO DAO. Hi, Fabio.
Good morning, all. Thank you. Good evening.
I know it's early for you, late for me, and normal time for the US. We're kicking off this XRP Community Day Americas. Very excited to be the first one speaking on these sessions. And today we have a very important news to break. We, Fabio and I, along with the other board members of the XRPL Foundation, representing Ripple and XRPL Labs, we are here today to introduce our new executive director. We'll get...
What? What happened? We lost him.
We lost you, David, if you could still hear us.
Am I lagging a bit?
Yes, you're back now, David.
Okay, so I'll go back from the beginning because I'm not sure. I think I got cut before reaching my high point. But in a nutshell, I think the XRPL Foundation is an important organization for the ecosystem. It plays an important role, and its mission is really ensuring that the protocol remains open, decentralized, transparent, and on top of it, accessible to all. And it is the steward of the network. It supports the core developers, the infrastructure, and the broader ecosystem. And 14 months ago, we created this new entity. We announced at Apex that the XRPL Foundation was kicking off, but most of all, it was looking for its executive director. And we have found him. Brett Mullin, super happy to have you join us. Brett, you're a tech veteran. You're an XRPL node operator. You're a long time community member. So, I think you're the best one to introduce yourself. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, about your journey with the XRPL community and the protocol? And let's kick this conversation off.
Yeah, thank you, David and Fabio and Visa and David Schwartz, members of the board, for picking me for this position. I can't tell you how seriously I take this position, and how much I want to give back to the community. So again, thanks to all of you for trusting me with this. Almost to the day, 11 years ago, I started at Ripple, hired by Bob Way, and was lucky enough to come to the offices in San Francisco and have David Schwartz and Bob and Stephen Thomas and Arthur Brito teach me about blockchain, teach me about the XRPL, write all over my desk in markers. It was an incredible time, and I'm so fortunate to have lived through that. And why I've been behind the scenes, it is this technology that's served me over the past 11 years. And I do think it's, time for me to give back, and that stewardship that you mentioned. And I'm very excited to do that.
Well, this is pretty cool to have you. We couldn't be happier to have your experience and your dedication and your enthusiasm to guide the foundation. We've seen several people for this position, and it's very clear that your roots in the ecosystem run very deep, that you have the passion for it. And so with Fabio, my co-board member today, we have a few questions from the board, but also from the community. I think we're going to take this session to explore a bit your vision, your roadmap, and I will let Fabio start.
Thank you, David. Brett, again, congratulations and welcome. So I guess the big questions that the community has probably been waiting for is that now that we've got an executive director, what are your top priorities, and let's say over the next 6 to 12 months for the foundation?
Yeah, so I'll start at a high level, Fabio. First off, it's the stability, the availability, and the evolution of the XRPL ledger. At a very high level, that's what I'm here for. And in the last session, if anyone was on the EMEA session, and in the rest of this session, and in the APAC session, you're going to hear from all of these people building on the XRP ledger. And I want to make sure that that foundation is there for them to build on. And that foundation needs to be secure. It needs to be available when you need it. And we also want it to be here in 100, 200 years. And, at a high level, that's what I'm here to accomplish. You're probably going to hear that, quite a bit from me. How do I start doing that? I think I start doing that by building a team of the best people from the community in each of those areas. And we've been, with the board, we've been building a team or trying to recruit a team. So you should see some announcements from me soon. I think the people you should look for is a director of community to interact with this incredible group, a director of technology, director of operations. With those people, I think we can establish the groundwork, the foundation for all the builders out there.
Very interesting. Some names will follow on, I hope. So that's at a very high level. Can you dig maybe a little in the more micro level?
Yeah. So there's obviously I've been in this environment for a long time, and there's some things that myself and the board want to accomplish. I think most importantly is transparency. And right now we have a lot of people, a lot of great people doing a lot of good work, but that work isn't really shared. People don't know what's going on. And I've actually worked at organizations where there were these super people who did a lot of work, and then they leave the organization and don't document things, and there's a vacuum. And I want to make sure that that doesn't happen with the XRP ledger. I'm not alone. There's a large group of people with over a decade of knowledge on the XRP ledger, and I'm thinking about the future. And And I want to get that knowledge. I want to document it. I want to share it. So the first step is documenting what we have now and then getting input. I think that's something that's been missing. I'm getting paid full time to listen to this community, the people that are on this call. So it's a time of absorbing that information and then working with the community to decide what we do. Real easy. I think there's processes that I want, very micro level. There's processes I want to get those up on GitHub, so everyone in this call can see what the organization is doing. I'll let you ask some more questions here, David. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. I think you're spot on. The thing you're mentioning about listening to the community, sharing information. There's been a huge call for transparency from major community members. So we're here to answer. What we've done for the last 6-7 months was really building with Brett a strategy for the years to come, making sure that the foundation has the resources, the talents that it needs to operate. So this was exactly what we were missing before. We had an entity, but it was basically an empty shell with a governance and a board, but the board was trying not to be too much operational. And so now that we have Brett on board and a team coming up, we'll be able to deploy the whole roadmap for the foundation and for the community. So beyond the process and everything, can you maybe take an example of what the foundation will do?
Real quickly, yeah, you're right. Not a lot is being said right now. This is more about, this section of it is about the XRP community, and they just are announcing the new executive director. All the information is going to come after this segment
of the protocol. And I know this isn't the most exciting thing in the world to everybody, but especially in this world of AI, you need to be able to feed into AI context so it can make its decisions, and having accurate context is incredibly important. Recently, we partnered with a company called Common Prefix to document the payment engine of the XRP ledger. And that was received incredibly well by the community. In essence, we've needed this for a long time. It helps us build. And with that knowledge, we can bring on more builders to the core protocol, and they can understand that protocol better, and they can build better code. Even our security auditors are taking that information and putting it into their processes. So the foundation is going to sponsor more of that, continuing the specification of the XRPL protocol, and maintaining that. So when something changes, those specifications are continuously updated, and there's a process in place for keeping them updated. So again, not the most exciting thing, but it's that documentation and then sharing that documentation that
definitely not
empowers
exciting
our core developers and will grow the talent set across those core developers.
Well, if you ask me, I think it's very interesting, to know that there is an entity with people in it that are packing knowledge and sharing knowledge. I think for the longest time, this knowledge was in the head of a handful of people, and so that is definitely a risk for an ecosystem. To rely on a few talents. We have amazing talents, but
and this guy keeps lagging out. This is the second time he's stalled out now. I'm not gonna lie. So far, I'm very disappointed with how this community day has started. It's a little shaky, to say the least. We got people lagging out. Yeah, we're still in it. We lost the speaker. Like, this is crazy. We lost another speaker. What's going on? All these speakers. Let me take over, guys. I'll run the community day. My goodness. Just tell me who to introduce. We'll get this thing rolling. Yeah, we're still in it. Yeah, there's no news on the bill, Raul. They are still holding off on that for now. Yeah, well, if you know X Spaces is trash, yeah, no doubt. Yeah, they're not doing well at all with their community day stream, that's for sure. It's the second time the speakers lagged out and stalled. Now no one's talking. Well, you know, I'll try and keep it as interesting as I can for you guys. Yeah, raise hand. Let me see if I can do that in here. Just clap. Like, how do I raise hand? Let's see. They don't have that one in here. But it's all right. I can fill the time. Let's talk about price while we wait for them to figure their stuff out. We can do some things. We can entertain ourselves. We're adults, right? So let's talk about price. I did change my targets, and let me know, what do you guys want to talk about while we're waiting for this thing? While we're waiting for them to figure out their stuff, maybe I should reconnect to it before I sit here and talk so much crap about them. Watch it be me or something stupid like that. No, because all these other people are in here with me. It can't be me. It would, yeah, I wouldn't be in here with all these people. Right? Am I wrong on that? Let's leave and come back.
On giving out grants to builders, launching projects.
My bad.
Whereas
see, I'm talking all this smack.
Will focus on giving out grants to people keeping the protocol up to date and running. Anything you wanted to add, Brett?
No, I mean, I think that's, you know, I think that's incredible, David. And you know, the word foundation is critical here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The foundation is really the bottom, is really that bottom layer.
Yep.
That Commons and its developers are building on top of. And so that includes the infrastructure, you know, organizing upgrades, you know, talking with the community about the best hardware to run the protocol on, the governance of the system, and then that core protocol. And I think most importantly, moving that core protocol into the next century, the evolution of that core protocol. So not just the keep the lights on, but also where are we going to go next with that core protocol, which is, you know, an incredibly exciting area. You know, there's some low-lying fruit there, you know, things like increasing system requirements that can help us to bring up the capacity of the network. Again, that's my goal, is to make that foundation strong for everybody else on this call.
I think we can also maybe explore how the DAO will play a role. The DAO is a founding member of the foundation, and from its inception, the conversation with the DAO was trying to give a voice of the users at the foundation level. Fabio, do you want to expand a bit on that?
Yeah, thank you, David. Yes, definitely. So yeah, just a quick touch on what the DAO actually is and why it would matter to the community. So really simply, the DAO exists to give a community a voice. And my role on the foundation is basically to take the DAO members into that room and make sure they're part of the decision being made. When we talked about voting, and it's not my vote, through the DAO, we come together, we discuss things, we put proposal forwards, and we vote as a community. Once we landed on a position on whatever project or positions we want to take, that goes forward as one clear and unified view that reflects what the DAO or the DAO members want. So the whole idea is it's pretty straightforward. You know, there's lots of voices coming together as one, keeping governance open, fair, and I guess it will align with the broader ecosystem. So at the moment we are looking, the DAO is pointing towards the 1,000 members. As soon as that task is arrived and achieved, the proposal windows opens for the members to start lodging proposals, and we'll take it from there. So I'll just entice every listener and every XRP holder to go to our DAO webpage and have a look at it, have a read of it, and yeah, keep this thing going and moving forward.
That's fantastic, Fabio. Really helps me with, a challenge of taking leadership of a decentralized organization. And how do you keep that, how do you show leadership and also keep the network decentralized? So I think, this board and the DAO being on that board is an important way of doing that. And thanks a lot for your work and your contributions.
Thank you, Brett.
I think, one other thing I want to mention before this session was over, there has been some work going on in the background by the foundation that we didn't get to mention. I can't really take credit for this as I just joined. It was more David was much more involved with this and the board. But there is a refresh to xrpl.org that we are pushing.
There goes the audio on it again. I don't know what the deal is with their audio. So like these people talking right now, I'm going to get out of it and get back into it here. But these people talking right now, this is like the XRP community like team, essentially, like the people who are representing us for the XRPL, right? As far as building and things like that. So that's what they're talking about right now. This is kind of a prelude to the other people coming out. Like they're going to have Brad, they're going to have Schwartz, they're going to have the big people there. I believe anyway, that's what they said. They said they got Brad coming out later and others. So there's going to be more. Let me get this fixed though. So we can hear people.
It's the foundation will share a preview of what xrpl.org will look like. It's not yet live, but the team has been hard at work. Kudos to people at RippleX that have been working on that, from our marketing team. Everyone has been contributing from all the board members, companies to have a fresh look on xrpl.org. I think we're almost at time. What I want to convey here is
they're almost at time.
The foundation is now operational. Until now, we had a boat. Now we have an engine on the boat, and we're going to go full speed with it. And so expect more communication from the foundation very soon. Expect a two-way channel of communication where you will be able to engage with the foundation. Brett, I think, is the most personable guy in the ecosystem. You can talk to Brett, and so I encourage you to start conversations with him. So, thank you everyone for joining. I know it was a big news.
Big news.
If you want to hear more about
Thank you for the information on the foundation.
Several announcements coming up on the foundation's X account, XRPLF. You can follow also the XAO on at XAO LLC. And if you want to know more about XRPL Commons in our program, you can follow us XRPL_Commons on X2. And so my last invitation would be for everyone who wants to be in Paris. We will be in Paris for the Paris Blockchain Week. We organize an XRPL Zone Paris on April 14th for XRPL builders. So if you're building on XRPL and you're planning to attend the Paris Blockchain Week, make sure you register. We will share the Luma link later on. And next up, stay tuned for the next session coming up about XRPL features, what's live, what's next. We have our core developers joining. I see them. Hi, Mayuka. And so we'll be speaking about the future of the XRPL and its features. Thanks, everyone.
All right, so finally we're going to find out some information about stuff coming up for the XRPL.
Here by David Bichiri, Fabio, and Brett about the new leadership at the XRPL Foundation. So definitely follow the people here on stage to keep up with further updates. And this leads us to the next session, which is about XRP features, what is upcoming, what is next. with amazing people at RippleX and, of course, Cryptenwriter. Let me first say hi to you all.
Hey all, how's it going?
Hi, Bet.
Hey, Matt.
Hey there.
Hey, amazing! It's like a group of friends already here joining to have that amazing conversation. Jazzy's also on stage, I believe. Jazzy,
Hey, Bet. How's it going?
great, amazing. Well, yeah, we're going to start with this session here. To start with, first, I want to give sort of just very briefly an introduction to each one of you, and then Crippen, you can also do that for yourself. We have Mayuka, which is staff RippleX engineer. She did a bunch of research and amendment work. You know her from X, very active in the community, involved with everybody here. And we have also Ayo, who is head of engineering at RippleX. And I had the pleasure to have last year an end of year space with him, which was amazing. So great to see him here on the stage as well. And we have an OG actually as well, and Ripple OG, which is Jazzy, coming from the head of product at RippleX, and did a bunch of DeFi. You guys remember with the AMM, you have seen her posts and also her takes around it. So with these three guests, we have also Cryptenwriter.
Hey guys, for people that don't know me, I do education on X mostly, and also, which is pretty new, I do a show that is called Cryptenwriter TV with that actually, where we talk about XRP Ledger mainly and XRP and the whole ecosystem, which is basically everything which we care about also right now, about the institutional DeFi roadmap that got released just a few days ago. And on this, Jazzy, just straight up, let's jump into this. Why do we care about FX payments, tokenized collateral, and credit right now? What are this? What are we solving with these new use cases?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Crippen, and thanks for having us. Excited to be here and to chat about this. So to take a step back, I mean, we're really looking at the intersection of two main areas. The first is where there are serious problems in finance, particularly institutional finance, that result in inefficiencies or unequal access, or trapped balance sheet today. And also the second area is where there are clear technical advantages of blockchain technology, particularly the XRP ledger. So we know the XRPL is fast and cheap. There's other clear advantages around how the features work, being built at the protocol layer rather than a smart contract level. And so if you look at those two spaces and where the intersection is, payments, credit, and collateral have really come across as three opportunities for us to solve real problems in existing institutional workflows, rather than sort of speculative use cases or use cases that are trapped to only a crypto native audience. And so if we look at each of them more specifically, payments, for example, cross-border rails, as we know, are slow, expensive, inaccessible by many. On the collateral side, there's major problems around trapped balance sheets and slow settlement cycles, unnecessary counterparty risks, for example, without atomic exchange of assets. And then on the credit side, we have fragmented manual financing infrastructure, inaccessible funding venues, or inaccessible investment opportunities on the lender side. And so the goal is really to make these faster, atomic, and programmable on chain by building features in these use cases on the XRP ledger.
This DeFi roadmap that RippleX was publishing and Ripple publishing, I have to say, was really overall really great because it gave exactly that insight with examples and interesting use cases, how XRP's utility plays into this as well as the center of it. For example, auto bridging and a bunch of other functionalities. That was really great to see, and I love to follow that roadmap along, of course, with all of you guys. From that part that Jazzy was talking about, IO, I'm interested, and Jazzy was already touching on it a bit here, is from a architecture point of view, from a XRPL ledger point of view, Why is the XRP ledger in a really great position exactly for this right now? And what are maybe some upcoming features that we can then talk about after that would play into that?
Yeah, no, I think Jazzy covered a lot of it. I would add that XRPL from day one has been designed and purpose built for deterministic execution. Right? If you think about smart contract platforms, it's sort of wild west. You can deploy anything and everything, but when you think about deterministic execution, it's predictability, it's consistency, and I feel like XRPL has sort of cornered the market on building the right primitives that unlock financial use cases at scale. And that's the first big reason that I think XRPL is like primed for this time. And then the second thing is just frictionless, and low cost asset movement. So fees are cheap, simple APIs for launching tokens and tokenizing assets. So those two things together, I think, just kind of work really nicely. And then when I think about just the evolution of XRPL, we're able to evolve the ledger without actually fragmenting it. And we have all these native primitives at the protocol layer that just directly fit into financial workflows. And so this is really the time for XRPL to shine.
So Jesse was like mentioning tokenized collateral, credit, and FX payments. Is like as a really main use cases that are very promising, and there's a lot of product market fit out there. What are some features that the XRP ledger already has or needs to do exactly these things? For example, collateral or
Right.
lending that you can mention.
Yeah, I think one of the simple things that you talked about earlier is that auto bridging feature that's inside the DEX. When liquidity gets thin, between two assets, right? The fact that the ledger automatically routes through XRP to get the best possible price just kind of makes it seamless, and I think that's a nice feature that I think will become even more pronounced as permission DEX, permission
Experienced
domains
American
are coming
duo.
live. Just kind of give more structure to the market. But yeah, it's those kind of unique features that are part of the XRPL architecture that I think are going to shine and bring additional utility to XRP.
There are so many new features. There are also multi-purpose tokens, token escrow, batch transactions, and all the stuff around permissioned as well. Permissioned domains, permissioned DEX. Jazzy, maybe help us understand why do we need all these new features, and will this really help XRP and the XRP ledger to accrue more liquidity and volume on chain?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a lot in the roadmap, as you guys saw in the recent institutional DeFi roadmap piece. If we start with permission domains and permission DEX, two of the most recent features, taking a step back, the XRP ledger has supported open payments and the permissionless decentralized exchange for a very long time, arguably, longer than any other blockchain. There were order books at first, and then more recently, we proposed and added an automated market maker, but all of that was still permissionless. With a payment, when you look at institutional use cases, that usually works fine because you can send directly to a known counterparty. But with the decentralized exchange, or most exchanges in general, your counterparty is unknown. So it's really about open price discovery and matching. And while this is great from a permissionless perspective, this is a problem for regulated institutions because they can't trade with an unknown counterparty and still meet their compliance restrictions. So by adding a feature like the permission domains and then the permission DEX on top of that, what we're doing is allowing for institutions and regulated entities to access these benefits of cross-currency payments and trading on the XRP ledger, without, violating compliance expectations. And what's unique on top of this is the approach we used on the XRP ledger does this in a way that it doesn't create liquidity silos. We've seen fully permissioned protocols launched in other ecosystems before, and unfortunately, they largely failed. And I think the problem here was they were fully separate and siloed from the other, permissionless DEX or lending protocols. But by building it with the permission domains mechanism, it's very simple to arbitrage between the permissionless DEX and the permission DEX to allow liquidity to flow freely between the two systems So you really get the best of both worlds. And the net effect there is institutions can use XRPL for production, payments, and FX, and not just experimentation. So, I mean, that's one example on the payments and FX side. We can, certainly get into similar examples later in the conversation on the credit as well as collateral side.
By the way, for those who don't know, Jazzy is a huge fan of the native functionalities of the XRP ledger and how it differentiates itself from other solutions, as you can tell, and how she was saying, which I love that how you put that out. One thing that comes to my mind specifically when you mentioned the permissioned DEX and also that it's aggregating liquidity and not segregating liquidity. We definitely see like a lot of protocols who do like different version updates, version 2, 3, 4, and each of it is its own protocol with its own liquidity that they cannot just take with them. So that segregation is not on the XRP ledger because it's all native aggregated. Yeah, that's a huge plus specifically for institutions. And so in these things, specifically with the compliance building blocks that we just touched on, the order book, the XRP Ledger DEX, I'm curious if you can maybe expand a little bit, Jazzy, on how like features like MPTs, token escrows, and so on fit specifically in the process of utility for, I guess, XRP as a token and for institutions in that aspect.
Yeah. So MPTs is a new multi-purpose tokens is a new token standard on the XRP ledger. It's lighter weight than IOUs. It has other advantages that make it very well suited for tokenizing real-world assets, for example. And on top of that, which I'm sure Io will go into in more detail, we're building privacy functionality on top of the MPT token. And so when you start to piece these things together, MPTs, batch transactions, and then privacy, you start to get the ingredients for institutional grade delivery versus payment, which is basically the ability to exchange assets and cash atomically in the same transaction, which reduces counterparty risk. So this is a really clear, value creation opportunity for blockchain technology solving a real world, financial problem. In terms of, XRP fitting in, I think on the base level, XRP is always used for transaction fees and also account reserves, and in some cases, object reserves as well. But I think there's more unique things we can build on top of that. I think it makes a lot of sense to use XRP as the cash leg of a repo transaction, for example, in some cases, because stablecoins are often subject to different regulations in different geographies. And XRP, we know is regulated, we know is global, and can just make it a lot simple and more global by replacing it on the cash leg as well within the transaction.
XRP is the only asset on the XRP ledger without a counterparty and that any account can hold. And that makes it very differentiated, obviously. Yes. Crippen.
Another differentiator is also not only that XRP has no counterparty, but also that in contrast to other networks, most of all in this case right now, all features are primitives. They are native features. But Mayuka, what I would really like to know, because you're on the programmability side of programming, why do we want primitives, or why do we still want primitives to be the main focus right now? What makes it so different to have it all native and as a primitive on chain?
Yeah, so I think primitives are a really good selling point for the XRP ledger, because it means that everything just is sort of built in, it works natively, it's going to be battle tested, audited, all of that, and it's just a transaction. You don't need to specify anything separate, you don't need to write your own code, it'll just work. And with respect to the DEX specifically, it means that we don't have any liquidity segregation, as Jazzy was talking about earlier. It's all just one big native DEX. It's not, several different DEX smart contracts or anything like that. And that especially becomes a benefit when you integrate something like the permission DEX into that. Having that as a native feature means that you can have that easy arbitrage. You can have it all be just super seamless. You don't need to integrate with some other system, with some other smart contract. It's all just, the XRP ledger is all just one big smart contract, if you will. It's a very seamless process. It's all just very automatically integrated. All you have to do is specify one extra field as a part of your permission decks. So it's the exact same process, basically no change as long as you're properly permissioned. And I think that's just makes it so much easier to use.
Did you
I
also
guess not.
mention? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, you mentioned, did you also mention, because this is something that you always also highlight, the human readable transaction outputs that you can generate?
Yeah, absolutely. Human readable, human generatable. You can just look at the transaction, see what the fields are, and roughly understand what that transaction is going to do just by looking at it. And you don't necessarily need, a whole bunch of tooling to just understand what your transaction is going to do, let alone understand how it integrates with the whole system. You have your escrow object is named escrow. Your offer, when you're trading, your offer object is named offer. It's all just super simple, super human readable, super easy to use. Once you, if you just understand how these things work, you know exactly how to work with them.
Going with this,
I'm in the conversation,
one of
but I
the
do
other
let them
points
do
that Jared
most of the speaking.
was pointing out in the beginning about interesting use cases, and it certainly is like one that a lot of people in the XRP community right now are looking forward to. I mean, Brad was mentioning it in the opening space. Definitely, when you look at Evernorth with Ashish, how they have mentioned it multiple times, is of course the lending protocol. This is right now currently up for voting on the XRP ledger. And a lot of people are looking into it. Some people playing already around with it on the DevNet. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that, Jesse, why it is such a significant addition to the XRPL and how it ties like into this whole DeFi ecosystem to have essentially native credit on chain.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely an exciting one for me and the team as well. Credit is a brand new financial and technical primitive we're looking to bring to the ledger in 2026, as you mentioned. If we take a look at what's wrong today, what's missing today, what we've proposed here, I think is fundamentally different than what exists on other blockchains today, which is typically more of a money market or margin instrument where you over collateralize one asset, typically crypto, and then borrow cash, which is really great for crypto users, but doesn't solve the much broader real world financial problem and around financing and balance sheet expansion. So what XLS 65 and 66, the lending protocol and single asset vault, will introduce is credit functionality, including capital aggregation or fundraising, on-chain loan origination and servicing, default management, and then, of course, yield accrual or ROI on the investor side. And so this approach brings a number of different advantages, both to off-chain as well as on-chain lending today. So native lending makes originating, collateralizing, and settlement fully programmable on-chain. This version of lending will leverage a third-party custodian in the event that it's a collateralized loan, and then we're looking at future versions that bake that right into the protocol. So more to come on that front. And it really just removes a lot of the issues around settlement delays, reconciliation problems, and just allowing new financing use cases such as payments financing or working capital to be directly on chain for the first time. So we're really excited about this. We're already seeing both grassroots projects from the XRPL like Soil adopting, experimenting, talking about this, which is great. We're also seeing large institutions looking to the lending protocol to, for balance sheet expansion essentially, and to tap new capital sources. So really good signals from the market so far, and I think XRP can play, right into this in terms of both, gas and account reserves, liquidity for funding. There's obviously a lot of XRP that's sitting unused today, and being able to lend that out, earn yield on your XRP, and also provide a new funding source to borrowers is really a win-win for the ecosystem. So we're really looking forward to this one.
Crippen, I remember you were mentioning about with the lending protocol how we talked about this with the capital requirements that are different and the advantages.
Yeah,
Do
the
you second that?
the institutional approach is, I think, what makes this very different to other, let's say, more decentralized or approaches that are off chain, either off chain completely, or that are completely on chain. Like
We're going to be
Aave,
looking
for
at a lot
example,
of really
Hybrid
dry
service,
technical
kind of
information
middle
until
ground,
probably the last
which will use
segment,
the
I'm
best of
guessing,
XRP and
guys.
XRPL, but also give institutions like a chance to use what they already know and love. Which brings me to the question, Jazzy. I mean, many people many listeners right now will probably also like to know, will Ripple themselves also use the lending protocol, or is this just something for the broader institutional market or retailers like us?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I will defer to the my counterparts on the Ripple payments team to confirm or deny their plans there. I do think that the lending protocol from a technology perspective makes a lot of sense for the
I lost it again.
around the world of XRP holders really lines up from a supply and demand perspective. So I think that's all I'll say on that front.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
let me also let me definitely also say that I'm really happy that Mayuka did the Q&A here, where people were able to ask questions for the Ripple payments team about the XRP Ledger Dex integration. That was really good. So I hope to see more of that definitely also in the future, Mayuka.
There
So
are
Yeah, of
other,
course.
yeah.
go ahead.
When we talk about institutional products and institutional demand, like I always think there's this one puzzle piece that is missing. We already know about compliance, and everyone is talking about compliance, like permission domains, permission text. We already know this. We know we need liquidity, and it needs to be regulated and compliant. But there's also privacy, which is like a really difficult topic, because privacy is something we all want, but at the same time, it's pretty complicated on a technical level because we are talking about zero knowledge proofs. So maybe before we go deep into privacy, help us understand what is zero knowledge proof. Try to like LE5 as zero knowledge proofs for us.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this straightforward from a technology perspective. I think zero knowledge proofs have been
It's a
around for a
really
really, really
boring
long time. And
community
they
day.
just didn't
Okay.
find
All right.
adoption
We've been
until
live. Hang on a
blockchains come
second.
along
Let me
in
get
a
out of this.
massive way, right? And the fundamental tool that zero knowledge proofs represents is the ability to prove a statement is true while holding back the sensitive and private information that would validate that proof.
All right. I'm just going to put this down a little lower in the background because it's kind of boring. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. Should we continue this until, like, should we just leave it in the background until Brad gets on? Like, what do you guys think? Let me know in the chat because it's dry as hell. I mean, I'm bored listening to it.
With a small proof, right? So for reducing storage costs, as an example. But in the institutional use case, but before I keep going, does that help with at least a good sort of high level way of
Yes.
understanding the tool? Okay,
Definitely.
cool. So the second phase of this is that how do we actually instantiate this on a blockchain, right? And in our particular case, again, we care about scale, we care about security, we care about privacy as use cases for zero knowledge proofs. But when I hone in on just the privacy, the context is this, right? What people do
Okay,
today
here's what
when they
I'm
want to
gonna.
hide
Brad should
information
be
is that they
on.
store
I'm
it in a
guessing in the
database,
last
they
segment.
wrap it around.
I'm gonna leave this run for just a second. I'm gonna recharge my battery a second. Need to use the restroom because I've been sitting here for an hour. And I'm gonna come in and we're gonna do a round 2 of information about actual crypto. Okay, I'm gonna turn this back up for a second. Oh no, it kicked me out. What the hell? I'll get back in there. Give me 1 sec. I'll be right back for you guys. 1 sec. And I'm back with the quickness. Let's see here. Let's see. All right, let me get that pulled back up. I can't believe that it was going that slow. Let me get back to Ripple's website and I'll pull it on and we'll put it in the background. We'll talk crypto. Get your questions, get your topics, get your thoughts going in the chat. We're gonna rerun this stream here again because Ripple failed. I'm saying Ripple failed because this community day is garbage. I mean, we have to call it for what it is. I mean, but it is hot garbage.
To kind of help people that are coming from a, from a Web 2 kind of perspective is like,
I mean, it's very dry. Let me turn my speaker down so I don't have to hear it. And it cut out, it keeps cutting me out again. It just cut me out of it again. This thing's garbage. A few moments later. Okay. So I see you in there, Catfish. I don't think it's going to go that low. My original thought when we're actually looking at what's taking place is, and again, nothing is financial advice, but my original thought, we're looking at what's actually taking place with price in regards to Bitcoin. I see it. I don't think it's going to go below 60K anymore. And the reason I say that is because if it gets to 60K, that's the level that the miners, and this is information I just recently learned, but if it gets to 60K, that's the amount that the miners need in order to maintain their operations. If it falls below 60K, then they're operating at a loss. They can't pay their debts. They're forced to sell Bitcoin, yada, yada, yada. So I don't think it's going to go below 60K just because of the mining operations. But that being said, I think XRP will go to $1.20 if it gets there. And again, that was information I learned yesterday in regards to the mining operations setting the floor at 60K, which makes sense to me. Originally, just based off of the levels, I was thinking 55K. But again, you get new data, you make new opinions. At least I do anyway. Funny how some people knew this would happen. Everybody knows. You know, it's funny too. You see a lot of people say this, like, I called it, I called it, I called it. You always hear that after it happened, but for some reason, you never hear that before it happened. At least I will give him this credit. He's saying something's going to happen before it happened. Now, you can go with the other end of that spectrum where you keep saying multiple things are going to happen until eventually you're right. You know, that's the every blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again kind of theory. But, you know, you're going to see that a lot. And that's why I really, when I'm talking to some of you, a lot of you say that I'm very humble, or I don't want to, say anything one way or another and let people make their own decisions. It's because a lot of times I'll see people walk things back, and I don't want to be associated with that, because a lot of people do come on here and talk like they know everything, and they don't. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you that I don't know everything. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I can show you the research I do and give you a reasoning and thought process on how I come up with my opinions, and you can decide for yourself what you want to make of it, along the way. But when I hear people speak with such conviction on something and I know that they're dead wrong, a lot of people don't know that they're wrong and they take that information for fact. And that can be a very big problem, especially when you're talking about financial investments and things like that. And this thing kicked me out again. I can't hear it now. I know you guys can probably barely hear it in the background, but I'm still trying to keep an eye on it so that way if something good comes on, we can hear it. They're talking about regulatory clarity and it not going through yet. Waiting for Brad to come on so we can actually talk about something interesting. I'm trying to keep you guys interested, so keep the chat going. We're just leaving it in the background for now. One of the things I'm just going to talk. So hopefully it grows, but one of the things that's been really cool to me is the shift away from speculation to actual utility tokens, which is amazing to see. We're seeing, we're seeing interest, even though I don't have any, but we're seeing interest in things like Zcash. We're seeing interest in things like Hyperliquid and Zero and CC. Like, we're seeing a lot of interest in the utility tokens, which is very bullish, like over the next 5 to 10 years. And again, I don't think it's going to be one coin to rule them all. I think there's going to be a handful of winners. It's not going to be just one. And that's why I hold a stable of 5 different tokens, and then I have a couple dart throws, but I invest in the same 5 every single month. I invest in XRP, Canton Network, HBAR, Chainlink, and Ondo. And then I just threw a very large dart at Zero last night. Glad I did. I hit the bullseye, so it's working out for me right now, but I did throw a large dart at Zero last night. And let me flip back to this and get this thing pulled back up again, because again, I can't hear it. Man, this X space thing is garbage. It's terrible, yo. I see you guys signing off in the chat. Let's see here. Keep it rolling. Other than price appreciation, what do you think will drive the retail investors who left to come back to crypto? It's going to have to be psychological based. Like, a lot of them have lost so much money, they're just over it. Your typical retail crypto investor truly views crypto as gambling. They don't look at it as investing. That's why so many people are here for 10, 20, 30x returns. They are treating it as gambling. That's why so many people have left crypto and run to the prediction markets, right? Because it's gambling. So you got the prediction markets, and then you have all the sports betting and stuff like that. Over the last 5 years, since the last crypto crash, so to speak, in 2021, there's been a movement of online sports betting. There's been a movement into prediction markets, and a lot of the young crypto investors have now moved on, which is why we're having no retail action whatsoever on any news or any of those things. But as institutional players in this space, that's good for us, because it truly means that FOMO is out and adoption and use case is really what's going to drive things moving forward. We should see over the next year or two, we should see that play out. We should actually be able to watch it happen in real time. Had to step out for a while. What did I miss? Quelly, you didn't miss anything. We decided to let the community go in the background, let the community day go in the background till we get someone good on here to listen to, because it's been very dry, very boring, like not really any good information. I mean, there's some good information, but it's extremely technical. Most people don't care about it. Most people want to know if numbers going to go up. They want to hear announcements. They want to hear information. They don't want to hear the technical breakdown of how a DEX is going to help appreciate XRP. Most of them don't understand it. So as far as what we've already discussed in regards to, the blueprint that came out for Ripple, they're just going in the more technical analysis of that. And the stream has spoken. People are leaving very quickly. They don't care about that. They want to know, will number go up? So we are back to talking about crypto as a whole. So get your questions rolling. I am just going to have a chill chat stream. It's actually good practice for me for my other channel. Because my other channel, I just have to riff and answer questions, which I love answering questions. I mean, I just love talking about crypto in general, but I just love talking to people, honestly. So my other channel is just a lot more chill. It's honestly just casual people talking to me. Or at least when I finally do have it go live, that's what it'll be. And again, that's just a second channel. I'll still be doing this one every day, Monday through Saturday, at noon, like clockwork. I ain't going anywhere. So the stuff, let's see here. So the stuff in the chat about 213, that was someone else who came in's random prediction. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I've given mine. I'm not going to stop someone else from giving theirs. How does XRP differ from HBAR? HBAR is more mainly about tokenization. XRP is a liquidity layer, right? XRP's primary function is a liquidity, to serve as a liquidity bridge for assets, whereas HBAR is a tokenization layer. That's the primary difference. Now, XRPL is bridging into tokenization, which is good because the more assets we have to switch between, the more pairs we can create for XRP, the better, because that means the more things it's going to bridge between, right? So the more value goes on chain, the better. Yeshua asks, how low are we going? I've actually changed my prediction. I think $1.25 may be the lowest we see. If it gets there. We just double bottomed on Bitcoin at 65K. So really, I mean, we had good jobs data. I don't think we're going to get bad inflation data on Friday. Some people are calling for really bad info on Friday. I actually think we might get some good data on Friday for a change. And if we do get good data on Friday, following good jobs data on Friday, and then maybe we get a little bit of good geopolitical news, we could have a risk on pump for a little bit. But again, that's, you know, in the short term. That's why we dollar cost average in over time. We're talking a lot about price lately because there has been a massive pullback in crypto, and a lot of people are scared. They want to understand it. And regardless of what I tell you, you're going to choose to believe me or not. I mean, I was watching someone earlier today saying that this pullback in crypto is strictly because of the structure bill. It has nothing to do with the structure bill, but you know, whatever narrative you want to tell yourself, you can go ahead and look at it. I mean, the overall economic landscape has been crashing since October for sure. And some of you may be like, Scott, there's no way. That makes absolutely no sense. Well, I can prove it to you if you'd like. I mean, if we go back and look at the overall, so the other than Nvidia, right? Other than Nvidia, right? That keeps getting all that debt reinforced into it. We know what's propping up Nvidia. But if you go back and look at stocks since October, let's look at Microsoft, right? Let's look at Microsoft stock. Microsoft. What have they done since October? Nothing. They took a big dumperooski in February, but back in October, that's also February. I mean, let's look at year to date. I mean, since the beginning of the year, they're down massively. Almost 20% for Microsoft since the beginning of the year. AMD went off a cliff not too long ago, right? And then, so I mean, it was up from 265. Now it's all the way down to 213. It did fall as low as 185. It's come back a little bit. And you look at Oracle, right? Oracle, jumped off a cliff. It's recovering a little bit right now, but I mean, it's terrible. This is the entire stock market. It's not any one thing. It's a complete rotation out of risk over the last several months. Ever since the trade war heated up with China. Now, we were hoping that the supply thesis could help XRP and help decouple it from Bitcoin and get us away from this, from this mess. But ultimately, this is what we're dealing with right now. Regarding Zero, when you mentioned Kathy Woods, I got nervous. She sounds brilliant, but her track record is horrible. Well, it's not just her. And that's why I feel a little bit better about it, because you have Tether investing, because you have partners already coming online like the DTCC, right? These people are all in the same rooms together. They all wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know what I'm saying? They're going to scratch each other's back in order to make each other money. And that's just my opinion. Maybe that's a really like negative way of looking at the world, or a very pessimistic way of looking at the world, but they're going to try and keep that stuff in-house. They're going to try and help each other out. But, you know, that's honestly just how I look at it. It's wild how much FUD people spread when we're so early to crypto. We are basically infants. You're absolutely right. We are infants in this space. This is the beginning of crypto. I mean, we don't even have legal clarity yet for institutions to really dive into this stuff. Okay? We do need to get that clarity so we can continue to build. Crisis Yeshua says, yeah, the thing goes till 3:30, I think. Yeah, this thing is going to go till 3:30. Oh, but you were saying how low are we still going? You were asking about the price. So the show is going to go till 3:30. I need to turn the volume back on it so I can hear it because it keeps kicking me out. There it goes.
So grateful to be able to speak with you today.
That is fantastic. Let's start at the beginning, Chrissy. Just tell us how
They're still talking about who's Chrissy. Chrissy's who's talking. Let me see.
I chuckle a lot thinking
Chrissy, be transformed, be paid. What do you do, Chrissy Burrell?
on the ages of crypto. But I'm pretty happy about that today, just because of the journey that has really helped me to build.
Do you guys know who Chrissy Burrell is? That's who's speaking right now.
I did. It started really, really early, back in 2009. And at that time, you know, I was just newly married, had a new baby, you know, in a job that I had been at for several years. And
Okay, she's just talking about her life.
and so a friend of mine, he and I,
You know, man, I wish we could get something good in here. Hang on, let me get back to the screen so I can see what I'm doing.
we both, you know, we had our 401k.
Yeah, she's just talking about her life, nothing major.
As well, and we both were talking about
As far as when I think a supply shock will happen, I don't have the answer to that question. I mean, when we're looking at, I wish I had the answer to that question. If I could answer those questions, I would be a millionaire and they'd probably kick me off YouTube. That's why I track the payments activity. I try to find data that I can see, that I can trust, that I can follow, and that's real. That's why I follow things like, you know, what's going on with the on-chain data. That's why I follow stuff like what's being locked into ETF trust and looking at actual supply. And you hear people like, oh, ETFs aren't doing anything. There's all this buying. There's all this stuff going on. Well, we've been sitting with 800 million XRP roughly locked for months now because they keep having outflows. Like they had that one day where before we had a major pullback that Grayscale sold half of their bag, right? The morning before the pullback. There's too much coincidence, orchestration. Like these things seem to be timed or really, really well. I mean, it's so much stuff. I'm starting to think negative thoughts about stuff going on in the market, but I still do. I mean, none of that changes as far as my long view approach to XRP. I'm not, or any of my crypto. I'm here for the long view. Right now, XRP is at, let's see here, $1.37. My average buy is at $1.44 right now. So, I mean, I'm a little bit underwater, but I've gotten my average buy down from $1.76 to $1.44. So you can see I've been dollar cost averaging in on the way down heavily as well. My money is where my mouth is. I do practice what I preach, and I do believe in the long view. Scott, are you still planning on doing a newsletter? Yes, I am. I am going to do a weekly newsletter. A weekly newsletter is going to cover basically a recap of what happened the last week and what is going to be coming in the week before. I'm working on getting the format and getting everything set up to where I can do that. And have it set up for you and make sure I can release it consistently. I don't want to make that official until I can, until I can fulfill the promise, if you will. Sorry, I got like a little nauseous out of nowhere. It caught me off guard. Let me get a drink real quick. Just random nausea. That's no good. Let's see. XRP is up to $1.37. What are we talking about now? Let's see what they're talking about now.
Of course, I've had my own moments of regret, but but that was a seed.
Yeah.
That
I
planet.
shouldn't have. I should. Yeah.
Yes.
I shouldn't
I
have.
don't even know who
Bitcoin,
this
right?
person is or
It
why I should
was,
care.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And then it just kicked me out of it again. Like, this is stupid. Okay. I mean, I don't know what I have to do here. They need to really fix this. Maybe it's me. I don't know. I haven't had this many problems with anything like ever.
Of course, he transitioned, so I didn't have access to him in getting the information that I was wanting from that. But, we stayed in touch for a little while afterwards. But, of course, life was happening. But at the time, there were just so many other things that I could invest in, but crypto just never left my mind. I mean, it was just something about it. And I just felt like, if I could get the information, that is really what I was looking for. If I could just get the information to figure out, what this was. I mean, at that time when he said that they were exchanging goods and services, of course, in my mind at that moment, that's the use case, that's the purpose. We
Is there data we can trust? That is a very fair question if we're being truthful with each other. So I try to collect data from all sources and cipher through the data and come up with my own thesis and my own opinion. The only thing I can really truly trust is my own brain, and sometimes that's questionable, but that's why we do the research, and that's why I present it to you for you to make up your own opinion. I show you what I do, and I can show you that I practice what I preach. I mean, you can see it right here. I ain't lying to you guys. I mean, my money's right in front of you, or some of it anyway. That's not all of it. I'm not gonna show you everything, but I mean, you can see where I'm buying. You can see that stuff. And again, none of it's financial advice, but yeah, I do believe in the long view. I do believe in dollar cost averaging and over time. I do buy gold, silver, copper, and crypto and real estate. Those are my main investments, but it's about infrastructure. It's about stuff that's going to solve a problem or something that's going to fix a problem 5-10 years down the road. It's not and I think that's why maybe I've been able to be successful in it, because as crypto has moved into the more traditional lane, right? As it's moved away from more of the casino and lottery style back in the 2020, and it's turned more into traditional finance with the introduction of the ETFs, with the introduction of leverage, and it playing around in the overall stock market. It's transformed and moved more like traditional assets, with the exception of the volatility, obviously. But if that's the case, then we should invest in it like traditional assets. It's going to follow the same risk cycles. It's going to follow the same procedurals. I don't know how else to say it. But it's going to follow just like a tech stock, and that's exactly what's happening. It's funny because if you look at the Bitcoin ETF, the IBIT ETF for BlackRock, it follows BlackRock's tech stock ETF almost exactly the same. And it kicked me out of this thing again. Seriously, I love XRP, but their community day is garbage. So we're going to move on to something else. I'll try to get Brad's comments when I find it. Nothing major, I don't think, was announced, but otherwise it would have came out in the EMEA one that they did this morning.
We'll talk a little crypto because the crypto market's seeing its fair share of volatility over the past month. Our Mackenzie Sagalos is here. She joins us with a look at the trading action. Where's our Bitcoin this morning? I mean,
68 lower.
68. Yeah. We're still under 70.
Yeah.
What do you think's happening?
So Ethereum dropping below 2,000 as well in early European trading. Bitcoin has now round-tripped all the way back to where it was the day before Donald Trump was reelected, even after the crypto industry got virtually everything that it asked for, not just from Washington, but from Wall Street as well. So the sell-off we're seeing year to date comes down to three things. First, the ETFs that were consistently buying for virtually 2 straight years are now selling $5 billion net out of spot Bitcoin ETFs over the past 3 months. And on average, those Bitcoin fund holders are underwater with a cost basis around 90K. Ether ETF holders are down even more, about 31% according to 10x research. And when existing holders are sitting on losses like that, it's hard to bring in new money. Second, the Treasury trade is breaking. Strategy, Bitcoin's largest corporate holder, posted a $17 billion plus unrealized loss when they reported earnings last week. The stock now trades below the value of its Bitcoin. So the flywheel that fueled this rally, issue stock, buy more, grow the premium, it's not working. And third, Bitcoin is trading like a liquidity asset, not a hedge. So when risk off hits, it's a release valve, a 24/7 market that investors can tap for cash with no counterparty. So whether it was the October tariff shock or the Warsh nomination that set off this latest sell-off 10 days ago, Bitcoin was one of the first things that sold off. Fed Governor Waller summed it up yesterday. The post-election crypto euphoria is fading, and as firms cut risk, they're trimming crypto first.
So for those who are long Bitcoin, what would be, in this moment, the argument?
Bernstein summed it up yesterday in a note. They said that there's nothing fundamental to the sell-off beside souring sentiment, but to me, that provides little comfort. This all goes back to October 10th.
But isn't this a sentiment? This is a sentiment asset if it's that.
Well, I mean, they would argue that fundamentals haven't changed, 21 million max issuance. But at the end of the day, there are so many more ways to repurpose that same Bitcoin, whether you're looking at the derivatives market or these leveraged ETFs. So that same one Bitcoin is being repurposed multiple times over. And what's concerning to me is that the industry has not recovered from that October 10th record liquidation event. $19 billion in 24 hours, 70% of that carnage happening in 40 minutes. And the industry doesn't know what happened. And so one theory is that a US dollar peg stablecoin, USDE, lost its peg. It had to do with leverage being offered on Binance to the tune of 12%. And it was a washout in a day. Market makers were taken out. They haven't come back online.
And therefore, at $68,000, the smart money says what?
Well, at this point, retail is out of the trade. They've turned to prediction markets. A lot of them got burned in October 10th. They're not coming back in. So when we talk about where smart money is, it's institutional money in two different camps. The digital asset treasury companies, all underwater. I mean, we talked about strategy a minute ago, Bitmine immersion.
We're going to talk to Michael Saylor in a little bit. Yep.
And then the second part of that are the ETF holders, and they're staying on the sidelines. Everybody's underwater on their position. And part of the problem why you're seeing these outsized moves is the fact that it's shallow liquidity when we lost those market makers. So any kind of movement in either direction is bringing it up. The only reason we are hovering in that 60K range is because there's a floor priced in at 60.
But that's the question. So this floor that's priced in at 60, who is supporting that floor?
So basically $60,000 is what it costs to produce a Bitcoin. And so you've got the Bitcoin miners who, below that 60K point, they go out of business.
Right.
And so they are applying most of the marginal selling pressure. So once you get them out of the market, then suddenly you hit this floor. And also 60K.
So you're talking about actual supply and demand.
Exactly. And like to that point, 60K is the point at which the percentage of Bitcoin in profit it drops below the percentage of Bitcoin at a loss. And so that's why it keeps bouncing off of that 60 floor.
That's really, I mean, that you can look at it the same way you would look at oil prices when you consider it that way.
Yes, it's trading exactly like a commodity. Like we're just seeing forced selling pressure to these liquidation events. We're not seeing fundamentals driving the moves in the crypto market.
Does that mean it could never really drop below 60?
At this point where it is, especially with retail being out of the trade and it being so heavily indexed toward institutional, there is a stable floor there at this point. And, I mean, we were having a conversation with Anthony Pompliano yesterday, and he made the point that this bear market is the best one that we've seen. Usually we see a drawdown of 70 to 80% from the market peak. That would be in the 40K range. So we're still doing better. last week when it was down at
Right.
60, it was 50.
What happens if it goes under 60 for real? And how long does it have to stay under 60 to be a problem?
Well, the first thing I'd look at is what's happening to your digital asset treasury names. At this point, strategy, you can ask Michael Saylor about this later. They're not just underwater on their Bitcoin position. Their cost basis is 76,000.
Right.
They're a major driver of sentiment. To your point earlier, Andrew, like that is so
Right.
much of what's driving the trade. So their long dated debt starts to come due next year. And they have a cash reserve that's meant to support dividend payments. But if there's an erosion of confidence with strategy,
Right.
that's a problem.
And then they start selling, and then you have a right. Are any of the miners trying to prop up the price right now?
Well, the problem is they can't, right? A lot of them are just selling the Bitcoin that they mine immediately to service debt and to keep their production facilities online. And that's, others have just pivoted
Right.
to being to serving AI customers instead and becoming hyperscalers in their own right.
The whole thing, I know, one second. The whole, and I'm not saying 1 second to you, I'm saying 1 second to a producer. The whole thing gets super complicated, though. If you are under $60,000, it's not just that people stop mining the Bitcoin, it's that the network becomes more complicated itself because you need all of the miners to continue to effectively mine, literally for the whole thing to work.
Well, exactly. And also that was one of the core fundamentals of Bitcoin's use case, the fact that it was a decentralized network. And to have a decentralized network, so you need miners online around the world.
Right.
And when you start to see so many fold or like a consolidation through M&A, then suddenly you've got a concentration of mining happening in one particular place or with a handful of companies.
This is eye-opening. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So what does that tell you? That tells her, that was a longer video. I'm glad you guys stuck with me on it, but that paints a very clear story about Bitcoin. We have two scenarios essentially for Bitcoin. Scenario one, we have a 60K floor. That's essentially the cost to produce a Bitcoin. So if the cost to produce a Bitcoin becomes cheaper, or becomes, if the cost to produce a Bitcoin is more expensive than the Bitcoin is worth, then people start shutting down, and that's going to make Bitcoin easier to mine. So really, it looks like we're kind of sitting like between like a 60K floor permanently for Bitcoin. Now, of course, there's periods of volatility. It can go lower and it can still blow that up. But again, follow the money. How much money is involved? Billions and billions and billions. So we're talking the mining companies. We're talking governments. We're talking so many people involved with Bitcoin. So I think that we're looking at a 60K floor for Bitcoin. Now, if it does not say it can't pump below that, but if it does pump below that, we can see a lot of pain in the treasury companies. It can collapse things, especially if we had like a blowout, like someone was trying to call out in the chat. If we had a blowout of Bitcoin down to 10K, that would decimate people. Like completely decimate people. MicroStrategy would be insolvent. It would be ridiculous. Let's see. What decouples XRP from BTC? My opinion has always been the thing that will decouple XRP from BTC is utility. Let me pull it up for you. If I can find the right screen. I have too many screens here sometimes. This is the right one. All right, so utility. I think utility is what is going to do it. That's why I follow the account set activity. That's why it spiked all the way up to $68,000 yesterday. We're at, not $68,000, 68,000 account set activities yesterday. We're already at 27,000 a day. It's been 40,000 plus for like 3.5 months. So that's why I follow the on-chain data in regards to, because I do think utility is what's going to kick it over the finish line, if you will, for lack of a better terminology. But I've been calling it out and I've been reaching out to people. And then I finally got a reaction. David Schwartz himself liked my post asking about clarity on the account set activity and about its, how it's been increasing over the last 3 months and calling out the spike. He wouldn't give me an answer, but he did acknowledge the post, which is more than I've had before, so I gotta think it means something at least. I could be wrong, but I like to think it means something, darn it. Schwartz reaching out to me, I'll take it. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see if people are in a stream. It's a quieter stream because the community day event is such a bust. Like seriously, I that was the worst community day involvement thing I've seen like ever. It was terrible. They got people on there. You don't even know who they are or what they're talking about. Like, no one's talking about anything relevant to, yeah, it was just a terrible community day. If it wasn't for the SEC going after Ripple with the lawsuit, do you think XRP would be 2 or 3 digits today? I definitely think if it wasn't for the lawsuit, it'd be the number 2 crypto, and I do think it would be 2 digits at least. My opinion. Because it was the number 2 crypto at that time, and it was working and building out partnerships. It basically got completely derailed and put on hold for half a decade before they could get back into those meeting rooms again and actually have any kind of conversation in the United States. They had to solely go offshores, and that's why they're built out so much in Asia. That's why I'm really confident that tokenization is going to come, more on chain first in Japan than it will be anywhere else. That's why I was really excited about the monetary approval with Singapore, right? The MAS. You notice most of their licensing is outside of the United States for a reason. Now, the United States has the largest global economy, so we're going to need that if we're going to push this thing, next to the next level. But that's why we're here for the long view, and we dollar cost average in over time. DCA is the way. Right? To DCA is the way. This is the way. Our Mandalorian mantra. Let's see. Oh, I've answered all the questions. The community day was a bust. Let me pull up the community day back again, see if anything good is on. I might just call it, honestly, because it's been garbage, this community day thing. I'm really disappointed. If you can't tell, I am very disappointed with the community day because it keeps kicking me. It keeps muting the audio and kicking me out, and there's no one really talking on it of any kind of consequence. Here we go. Pull it back up.
First, take heart. You're not in this alone. You're brave, just to even want to get involved. And to the XRP community, I salute you. You are valiant. You are overcomers. You are phenomenal people who are just able to make it this far with your.
So it's a therapy session for everyone holding through the storm.
Times when things.
And it kicked me out again. You see what I mean? Like, seriously, this cannot just be me. What am I doing wrong here? Like, every time I turn it on, it kicks me out. Like, I'll leave. Okay. So Grok said no. So let's get out of Grok. Okay. So I leave. Is this it? What's this? No, that's chat. We don't want chat. So let's go back into it. Start listening.
Mind him of who he is. So just remember, who you are. Have gratitude on deck. When things are going on in the world or in your personal world, when you have gratitude on deck, you will win somehow, some way, every time. So
yeah, there's only 925 people listening
Crypto
to it.
is a wonderful
lot.
way
there's no one here.
Prepare yourself for the future. Prepare yourself even for exchanging, like I teach my children about exchanging.
So yeah, I'll try to bring you guys what Brad actually had to say. I think that's really all anyone cares about. So I'll keep an eye out and find out what Brad has to say, and I'll try and do a short on it later. I'm not going to sit here and make you guys listen to this. We covered what's going on with the ZRO coin earlier, as well as BlackRock now partnering and bringing on Uniswap and purchasing an undisclosed amount of Uni tokens. I don't know if you saw me highlight that on X when we were listening earlier. But yeah, this community day was a bust, I'm afraid, unfortunately. So I'm going to call it for myself for today. I'll let you know what Brad had to say. And other than that, I'll see my members tonight at 7 p.m. and I'll see everyone else tomorrow at noon. Later.